So George Rogers Clark was a notorious Indian hater who tortured and scalped his prisoners. When Clark captured Indians outside Vincennes, he and his men tomahawked them and threw them in a river to avenge the widows and fatherless. He claimed afterwards required their blood from my hands. Clark systematically destroyed Indian food sources, and he allowed his men to plunder Indian graves for burial goods and scalps. Clark called for British Commander Henry Hamilton's surrender on honorable terms. When Hamilton tarried, Clark and his men pushed 5 Indians they had just captured into clear view of the fort. Okay, so Henry Hamilton, I mean, I'm starting to wonder about all the propaganda now. I thought he was like the hair buyer, and he'd like passed out smallpox blankets and shit. But here Clark is trying to get him to fucking submit, right? And how does George Rogers Clark decide to get them to submit? Well, he does it by he takes 5 Indians he just captured into the clear view of the fort, and then they tomahawked 4 of the 5. So I guess they chopped off their heads, they tomahawked them, they just kept on chopping their heads until they died. Is that how you tomahawk somebody? That's just, they tomahawk them, right? So just not even beheading, not chop their heads off, but just what? Constantly just chop, 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 chop. One of them, a young Ottawa chief, wrenched the tomahawk from his skull and mockingly handed it back to his executioner before collapsing in a torrent of blood. All right, that's how they tomahawk them, right? They take a tomahawk straight to the fucking head. Crack! They're tomahawking your head. Now, you know, his blood, he says he mockingly handed it back. So, wow. Took the fucking, tomahawk from his head and handed it back. That's these fucking Native Americans, okay? So I don't even know how they was able to get the tomahawk. How were they able to kill, did they have their hands tied up or some shit? No, evidently not, because he was able to pull it out. So, but anyways, the point was a demonstration to scare the shit out of Henry Hamilton. And then he spared the last one, the 18-year-old son of Chief Pontiac, when one of his captains pleaded that Pontiac some years before had saved his life. And they said, no, look, Pontiac saved my life. We can't be mean to Pontiac. But eventually they're going to piss off Chief Pontiac, and then we're going to have more wars because of Chief Pontiac. At least that was after the French and Indian Wars, right? So the French and Indian Wars, Chief Pontiac, well, I'm sure you guys know all about that. So the execution of the 4 Indians with the terms of surrender under negotiation became 2 different stories told by Clark and Hamilton after the war. Victor's stories became enshrined in the nation's mythology and ended up in history books. Loser stories are suppressed or forgotten. In his expedition journal, first published in 1791, George Rogers Clark passed over the execution of the captured Indian warriors with the briefest mention, though he had described the grisly incident fully in a letter to George Mason. At the time, Hamilton's journal, which remained unpublished until 1951, featured the butchery. One was tomahawked either by Clark or one of his officers. So even Clark might have been the ones doing this shit. Hamilton had noted ironically in his journal, the other 3, foreseeing their fate, began to sing their death song and were butchered in succession, though at the very time a flag of truce was hanging out at the fort and the firing had ceased on both sides. The blood of the victims was still visible for days afterwards, a testimony of the courage and humanity of Colonel Clark. Is that supposed to be like ironic? The courage and humanity? Yeah, right. He's fucking blood of the victims was still on the fucking ground. They started to sing their death songs when they were tomahawking them, right? They butchered in succession. And there was even a flag of truce. And there was a ceasefire that was going on. But he didn't give a fuck, right? So Clark dreamed of capping his heroics at Vincennes with the capture of Detroit. Neither Virginia nor the Continental Congress would give him the men, supplies, and money for a new expedition, but he remained in the so-called Western Department, hoping to fight against a British regiment in Detroit reconstituted with Indian auxiliaries. After Hamilton's contingent made a daring assault on the American settlements in Kentucky in 1780 and took 350 prisoners, right? That was the Byrds campaign with Simon Girty. Clark made another of his famous marches through rough terrain, 480 miles in 31 days, to descend on the Shawnee in August 1780. Rather than seeing the Big Knives raise their home village at Chillicothe, the Shawnees burned it themselves. Then they fought hard at Pequot, another of their villages located on the Mad River. Clark's artillery pieces provided the crucial advantage in the American victory. After the Shawnees fled, Clark's men burned cornfields, gathered whatever booty they could find, including unearthed burial objects, and even the scalps of disinterred Shawnees became part of the plunder. One of Clark's trophies was Joseph Rogers, his cousin. A prisoner of the Shawnee for 2 years, Rogers had adopted Indian customs and fought along the Shawnee against the Kentuckians at Pequot. Clark watched his cousin die of a battle wound after Rogers fell to the hands of his Kentucky contingent. So, yeah, what a dick, huh? It says the great conqueror of the Northwest. He's the great genocider of the Northwest. Sullivan's campaign, 5,000 troops, destroyed 41 Indian towns. We talked about this briefly. This is the American Revolution, right? This is when George Rogers Clark is fucking operating. It's during the American Revolution. You got the father of the country, George Washington, you know, sitting there having, ordering Sullivan, ordering George Rogers Clark to go kill every fucking Indian everywhere, right? So it isn't just George Rogers Clark. It's also this fucking Sullivan guy. 41 Indian towns, 700 multi-family homes, 400,000 bushels of crops, probably corn, right? Refugees, 10,000 fleeing Indian refugees died of exposure, starvation, disease during the severe winter of 1780. Instead of describing murder and destruction, the commanding officer's official reports exaggerated. Indian resistance even claimed that American forces fought courageously to defeat superior numbers of Indian warriors. So they said they actually lost it in the West. The revolution would not really. Trained by his grandfather, Clark engaged in surveying along the Ohio River in the mid-1770s. He became interested in the Kentucky country around Harrisburg, which was the first white settlement. 1774 opposed those who sought to establish an independent colony of Transylvania there. At the outbreak of the Revolution, Clark persuaded the Virginia government to make Kentucky a separate county and authorize him to enlist troops for his defense against the British and Indians along the frontier. In May 1778, Clark, with an expedition of about 175 men, took two Mississippi River settlements, Kaskaskia and Cahokia, both in present-day Illinois. Cahokia used to be a fucking metropolis. And Kaskaskia, one of them is like, they have like 10 people left there. There's only 10 inhabitants. So Kaskaskia and Cahokia used to be like, fuck, they used to be huge. At Kaskaskia, George Rogers Clark gained the friendship of Pierre Gilbert, who induced the French at Vincennes at the Wabash River to change their allegiance. When reinforcements promised from Virginia failed to arrive, George Rogers Clark withdrew to Fort Nelson, now Louisville on the Ohio River, and made that his base for the rest of the war. In 1780, he helped defeat a British expedition sent against the Spanish settlements at St. Louis. That same year, in what was now Ohio, he destroyed the Shawnee Indian towns of Chillicothe and Pequot. In 1782, he razed Shawnee villages and destroyed crops in the Miami River Valley. Throughout the war, Clark and his men received no pay for their services. Furthermore, Clark was held responsible for debts incurred for supply, since Virginia, despite his promises, never reimbursed him. So, this is all the fucking people that he killed, right? They helped defeat British expedition. Okay, that's okay. That's British, right? But they always try to say British when it's really fucking Indians, right? That same year, he destroyed the Shawnee towns, Chillicothe, Pequot. He's probably destroyed fucking Chillicothe 100 fucking times, right? Oh, the old Chillicothe, new Chillicothe, that Chillicothe, their Chillicothe, everywhere Chillicothe, Pequot, right? I remember fucking Pequot getting signatures in Pequot for Ralph Nader, Ohio. The Battle of Pequot, he's fucking murdering fucking people up there in Pequot, right? All white people. I didn't see no Native Americans in Pequot. Let's see. Kaskaskia gained a friendship. Induced the French to change their allegiance. Yeah, so the 1778 Kaskaskia Cahokia, I think that's the Illinois campaign that he was so famous for. The blue jacket, he was in the he's a Shawnee war chief of the Shawnee people. He actually coming to Kentucky, right? He was fighting at in Lord Dunmar's war. In Lord Dunmar's war, this is something very important because Lord Dunmar, we know that you know, he's a fucking British fucking royalist, right? So here's what this asshole looks like. So this is Lord Dunmar, right? Oh, I am standing in the wind and it is blowing my little locks off to the side of my cute little hat with a feather in it. Oh, and then he's standing, you know, with his this is what the fucking British, you know, worshipped, right? So here's this guy. He's got his face, right? That's his face. That's his hat. He's all ready for battle, right? He's got this, I guess, sort of knife thingy, or is that like some sort of magic fucking wand? He's got his little buckled shoes, right? Got little cute socks. Look at those cute socks, all plaited out, right? White, red, pink. He's got plaited, you know, upper plaited, fucking Scottish. I guess he's like a Scottish fucking Duke of Earl. This Scott, you can see where we get the Scottish influence, right? So they're all British. You know, Scots, Irish, right? They're all fucking Great Britain, so they're all fucking British, right? No, I don't know. The Irish and the Scottish people are a little bit different. Scotland is sort of the same land mass as England, but Ireland is its own thing. But none of that has anything to do with anything. So you got Lord Dunmore with his cute little buckles and his fucking socks and his little, you know, his dress and his fucking hair and a little feather and his little, you know, frills around frills around, you know, his I guess his little fucking whatever his wrist there. And so that's Lord Dunmore. And so he's fucking important because you got Daniel Boone and you got George Washington. You got all these fucking people who was like sucking this guy's dick, right? This guy is a fucking royal colonist for Virginia. He was the governor of Virginia. When the revolution breaks out, he's going to get ran out, and then Patrick Henry is going to step in his place because he's of King George's flock. And then Patrick Henry says, no, you need to get out. But before that had happened, Lord Dunmore, he leads a war into West Virginia and kills a whole bunch of fucking Shawnee Indians, including the father of Tecumseh, who was born in Kentucky, Puckashinwa. So Lord Dunmore, with Daniel Boone and with George Rogers Clark, and I think Simon Girty was even here at Lord Dunmore's war. You had a lot of fucking important motherfuckers killing Shawnees at the Battle of Point Pleasant. That's really all the war was. It was 1774, and there was like a battle here and there. But it actually all started out with Johnny Logan and the Yellow Creek Massacre. So I'm gonna mention briefly what that was. But the Battle of Point Pleasant is where it all ends up. And here you got a big ass thing. It's in Point Big monument. It's in West Virginia, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, along the Ohio River. American Indians under Shawnee Chief Cornstalk attacked Virginia militia under Colonel Andrew Lewis, hoping to halt Lewis's advance into the Ohio Valley. Now, that's fucked up. They make it sound like Cornstalk attacked them first, but they're occupying. They're marching towards the fucking place, right? You got a marching army. You have to fucking attack them. You're not attacking them. They're marching to your fucking. They're occupying your space. And unless you accept the occupation, you need to fucking stand up and do something about it. So after the battle, the Virginians, along with the second force led by Lord Dunmore, the royal governor of Virginia, marched up the Ohio Valley and compelled Cornstalk to agree to a treaty ending the war. So that's sort of the that's Battle of Point Pleasant, right? So Lord Dunmore, the whole war, it was started out. Why do you have Daniel Boone fucking killing the Shawnee? Why do you have Simon Girty? Simon Girty, the white man who fights for the Indians. Why was he killing fucking Shawnee people? You have the Yellow Creek Massacre. This is how it all started out. So Simon Girty, started out in the Pennsylvania fucking amongst the Pennsylvania white people, the Pennsylvania colonists, but eventually deflects, in the middle, right after this. Okay, so the Yellow Creek Massacre is where you have Johnny Logan, who's just a fucking Native American, I think Shawnee guy. He went ahead and it's just a massacre, right? I mean, it's just they fucking killed his family. They invited his family over and they said, hey, we're gonna be your friends and shit. And then they said, hey, take a closer look at this, and then they killed them all. So Johnny Logan, once they massacred his whole fucking family because he didn't want to go to this big party that they were set, because they tricked him, right? They said, hey, let's have a big party. They got them all drunk, and then they got out the guns to pretend to start shooting, but instead of shooting the targets, they started shooting the Native Americans. And after that happened, Johnny Logan, who had always been nice to the white people, got pissed off and just started massacring, killing everybody, because that's the old fucking eye for an eye. They think you kill one of them, you kill one of them. But his whole fucking family was dead, and he was sitting there. His famous speech, Johnny Logan's Lament, his famous speech, just kind of pointed out he was the white man's friend. He got made fun of by the other Native Americans because he kissed the white man's ass more than anybody. Couldn't love him anymore. It's like Toussaint Louverture, right? Love the fucking French culture. But as soon as, he talked to Napoleon and talked to them, eventually they're fucking killing him, right? They fucking doing bad shit to him, and that's what happened with Johnny Logan. So Johnny Logan loved the white man, and then the white man killed his whole fucking family. He killed his sister with his baby, or not with his baby, with her baby. So with his niece, right? So with her still in there, and then like spread the guts out all over the river. Killed the mother, father, brother, sister. Like everybody was basically killed. And his wife, I think Logan's Lament, he says, who is there to mourn for Logan? Nobody. Who is there to carry on his legacy? Nobody. So his whole fucking family's dead. What the fuck is he going to do? If he hadn't gone around and did what he done, he might have been, history might have just, at least history picks up what he did. Because frankly, one man has a fucking right to do what he was doing. He wasn't declaring war upon the fucking, with the colonists on behalf of the Native American people. He was declaring war on just, on his own. And he was going to fucking enact revenge. And he was going to do whatever it is in order to get the revenge. Now that's what scared Lord Dunmore. Dunmore was Johnny Logan, flipping the fuck out. So the Northwest Indian War. This is going to be, I think this is some more George Rogers Clark fucking bullshit. Let's see here. In 78, they captured the British forts on the Ohio River. In 1778, American General George Rogers Clark and 178 men captured the British forts on the Ohio River. This gave the United States control of the river and a claim to all the land north of the Ohio. In the fall of 1779, natives allied with the British attacked a company under Colonel David Rogers and some other stuff. Battle of Blue Licks was the last battle of the American Revolutionary War in Kentucky on a hill next to the Licking River in what is now Robertson County, the second smallest county in Kentucky. A force of about 50 British Rangers, 300 natives ambushed and routed 182 pursuing Kentucky militiamen. They were following them. I mean, I cannot believe the apologist language that we use on all these fucking colonists. And, so let's see. 1778. I think they captured the British forts on the Ohio River. That's during the Illinois campaign, right? Which is right here. And the Illinois campaign is really important for the establishment of Louisville. So I'm going to make this the last one. Okay, so during the September of 1783 Revolutionary War officially ended the signing of the Treaty of Paris, and Clark returned to private life. Following the war, George Rogers Clark served as a chairman of a board of commissioners that allotted lands across the Ohio River from Louisville to those individuals who had taken part in his 78-79 campaigns. He was appointed commissioner to make treaties with tribes north of the Ohio River who are continuing their raids into Kentucky during 1786. After it became apparent that the treaties were ineffective, Clark was requested by Kentucky and Virginia authorities to lead a retaliatory expedition against the tribes along the Wabash River. From the beginning, however, Clark was plagued by questions of his authority and some other shit. So anyways, the point is he's, Clarksville, Indiana. I think it's Clark County, Indiana. Even Louisville was named by George Rogers Clark. They named it Louisville for King Louis XVI of French. So he was kind of kissing the French fucking ass, right, by naming this whole fucking city after the monarch of the basically the old French aristocracy. That's the dividing line when you chopped off King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette's head. That was the dividing line from fucking antiquity to modernity to modernness. And that's what we're looking at today. We're in a postmodern society, but you got Louisville, old redneck fucking culture, looking back at the fucking old monarchist, sort of old style shit. It's disheartening to be honest with you. But so that's what George Rogers Clark was doing right afterwards. He was passing out land right there. And so when it comes to Louisville's history, when it comes to Kentucky history, you need to know George Rogers Clark. If you don't know who the fuck George Rogers Clark is, and you don't know Kentucky. Battle of Pequot, that's something else George Rogers Clark was doing. Here's a little bit about Simon Girty, right? This is a fucking white guy. They say AKA Catapacomin, which I think I'm going to start calling him actually that from now on. Catapacomin. So you have Catapacomin, right? So Catapacomin is American colonial of Scots-Irish birth who served as a liaison between the British and Native American allies during the American Revolution. He's portrayed as a villain called the White Savage. As children, Girty and his brothers were taken captive in Pennsylvania in a Seneca raid and adopted by the families. So the Seneca fucking adopted Simon Girty. We got Seneca High School right there in Louisville. You got all Illinois, you got Shawnee, Algonquin, you got LaSalle, you got DeSoto. So this I'm not going to do his biography, but just the white man, he deflected to the Shawnee side. He eventually dies in Canada as an old man, so he survives. Here's a big ambush actually that happens in Kentucky. On October 1st, 1779, Simon Girty and Alexander McKee, another Scots-Irish loyalist, with the aid, right? So more Scots-Irish, right? So This is where they came from. People that look like this, right? Lord Dunmar. Look at me. I'm Scotch Irish with my fucking pink socks and feathered cap and Yankee Doodle Dandy with the fucking frills and the so yeah. Okay. No, not here. Large force of Native Americans attacked and killed American forces in present-day Kentucky returning from an expedition to New Orleans. So they fucking attacked. This is Simon Girty with Alexander McKee and some fucking Native Americans killing the Kentucky colonists. The ambush occurred near Dayton, Kentucky, across the Ohio River from Cincinnati, Ohio. Dayton, Kentucky. That's Dayton. That's Bellevue. That's Newport. That's Covington. Basically got 4 fucking cities, which is just all the opposite, or is all considered greater Cincinnati. Only a handful of the Americans survived, among them Colonel John Campbell and Captain Robert Benham. Girty was present during the ritual torture and execution of the Continental Army Colonel William Crawford by the Lenape, Delaware War Chief Captain Pipe. 2 American witnesses of his torture and execution survived and were later interviewed regarding these events. So Simon Girty, right? They fought against Daniel Boone in Kentucky, and they make him look like he's a bad guy. But because of Simon Girty's existence, which is why they want to demonize him, is the reason why we know that the entire George Washington and Ben Franklin and Tom Jefferson and John Adams and company, the founding fathers, they were the ones who was hiring George Rogers Clark. They were the ones putting out these fucking Sullivans. George Washington was known as Kanatakarus, which is town destroyer, the destroyer of towns. He murders fucking towns, 41 fucking towns. So the Scorched Earth campaign, it started with the Pequot War in 1637, which we get the fucking Thanksgiving from. From the Pilgrims are fucking massacring, genociding people, from Christopher Columbus, massacre, genocide, all over fucking Kentucky. About, 28 Native American tribes, all fucking gone. You don't see none of them. Here, let's see. What's happening? So, right, we have retaliatory forces after retaliatory forces over and over again. You see, Clark leads a retaliatory force. Victory, the Shawnee village of Pequea. So I wonder if let's see, what can we find about Pequea today? So he conquered Pequea. What does that mean? He murdered them all and left them all dead. The next year, Clark was promoted to brigadier general by Governor Thomas Jefferson, was given command of all the militia in the Kentucky and Illinois counties, and prepared again to lead an expedition against Detroit, although Washington transferred a small group of regulars to assist Clark. The detachment was disastrously defeated. The Battle of Blue Licks, they blamed him since he wasn't there. In response, after the Battle of Blue Licks, he led another expedition into the Ohio country, destroying several Indian towns along the Great Miami River in the last major expedition of the war. The importance of Clark's activities in the Revolutionary War has been the subject of much debate amongst historians. As early as 1779, it was called the Conquer the Northwest. So, okay, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, right. He's destroyed several Indian towns along the Great Miami River, the last expedition of the war. So this is on the Great Miami River. This expedition happened, and this is the Battle of Pequea. So Pequea is at Pequea. This is his, fucking return fire for Battle of Blue Licks. You kill fucking, poor old Daniel Boone and Israel Boone and all the people that was killing fucking natives so long, right? This is also happens after the end of the American Revolutionary War. So how can the last battle, right, is there the Battle of Yorktown, where the British fucking concede, but still we got the Battle of Blue Licks. Why is this shit happening? Oh, well, this shit's happening because it's against the Native Americans. It's not against the British, okay? So, after the Battle of Blue Licks defeat, where all those Kentuckians had got killed, the white Kentuckians, the white colonizing, invading Kentuckians, the occupying English, Protestants, right? The Anglicans, fucking George Rogers Clark is an Anglican. He leads a retaliatory force against the Shawnee here at the Battle of Pequea. So the Battle of also Pequea or Pequea. It's part of the Western campaign during the American Revolutionary War, led by General George Rogers Clark. Over 1,000 soldiers, among them Daniel Boone and Simon Kenton, crossed the Ohio River near present-day Cincinnati and burned 5 Shawnee villages, including Old Chillicothe, along the Little Miami River. So they're, again, building another, burned another fucking, they already fucking burned down Chillicothe, now burning down Old Chillicothe plus 5 more Shawnee villages. Peter Laramie's store, British trading post located in what was later Fort Laramie, was also burned by George Rogers Clark's men. I think Simon Gerty is here, right? Simon Gerty's with fucking, or not Simon Gerty, Simon Kenton. My bad. Simon Gerty's a badass, but Simon Kenton, which is one of the famous frontiers with Daniel Boone, was namesake of Kenton County, which is northern Kentucky. Boone County, Kenton County, right? Both northern Kentucky has county named after some of these frontiersmen. After several hours of fighting, both sides suffered moderate casualties before scattering the small Shawnee rear guard. The campaign against the Shawnee and the Miami River Valley is intended to discourage further raids against Kentucky. Right, so they're just doing terrorism just to discourage. We did that shit with the dropping of the nuclear bomb, right? Just to discourage Stalin from attacking us. We dropped a whole fucking bomb on Japan, right? First Hiroshima, then Nagasaki, just to, put Stalin on notice. Stalin, you're on notice, okay? You're on notice, Stalin. You need to fucking pay attention. The battle was the only major engagement fought in Ohio during the American Revolutionary War. So they said the Battle of Pequot, the major engulfment fought. Fuck you. That's maybe the biggest fucking battle or something, but there was such a genocide all over the place. After several hours of fighting, both sides suffered moderate casualties before scattering the small Shawnee rearguard. The campaign against the Shawnee and the Miami River Valley is intended to discourage further attacks. Further raids against Kentucky and other parts of the American frontier, while no further raids were made by the Shawnee for the remainder of the American Revolutionary War. Hostility greatly increased among the tribes living in the Ohio country for years afterwards. So, Shawnee, right? The Battle of Pequot was just against the fucking Shawnee, man. Always against the Shawnee. And then you get Peter Laramie's store, right? So they're fucking killing Laramie. Fucking poor Peter Laramie just trying to fucking trade. And then they, 5 fucking Shawnee villages, right? 5 villages, including Old Chillicothe. So, what a bunch of fucking bastards. George Rogers Clark is a fucking bastard. He's about as bad as Hugh McGarry, right? Just fucking kill people, feed them to the dogs. Here's a connection to Louisville. Okay, he's going to do this Illinois expedition, which he's going to be famous for, and he's going to brag and, basically live on his laurels for the rest of his life. Okay, so let's say this is no authentic images of Clark from the Revolutionary era. This portrait is of an older Clark painted by Matthew Harris Juliet after Clark's death. So this isn't even what he looks like. We have no idea what this fucking asshole even looks like, okay? I heard he was 6 foot and he had red hair. This guy's got white hair. But the campaign, the Illinois campaign, you're going to find deserters are going to form Louisville. You're going to find the first frontiersmen, the first settlers of Louisville were people that had deserted from George Rogers Clark campaign into Kaskaskia. So he's organizing all of his men. He comes down the Ohio and he's sitting at Corn Island, right? Right at Louisville today. And they call it Corn Island because they raised a crop of corn in it while they were waiting there and planning on going. And some people was actually saying he was taking his time. He got scared. He didn't know what he wanted to do, but he was actually practicing his maneuvers and getting ready to fucking go and do this, and actually back in his time, it was you fight with us or you're going to get shot. George Washington was hanging deserters. So if you was militia and you was on there, you better fight as the way he said to fight or else he would shoot you. You would die. And so when they got to Louisville, okay, so you have his little flotilla reached the Falls of the Ohio on May 27th. He set up a base camp on a small island in the midst of the rapids, later known as Corn Island. When the additional recruits from Kentucky and Holston finally arrived, George Rogers Clark added 20 of these men to his force and sent the others back to Kentucky to help defend the settlements. The new recruits were placed in a company under Captain John Montgomery, and Montgomery's company was a scout named Simon Kenton, who was on his way to becoming a legendary Kentucky frontiersman. On the island, so what are we saying here? Simon Kenton was, kept at Louisville to help defend the settlements that were there at Louisville. While Clark and his officers drilled the troops in preparation for the Kaskaskia expedition, the families who had traveled with the regiment down the Ohio River settled on the island and planted a corn crop. These settlers moved to the mainland the following year, founding the settlement, which became Louisville. While on the island, George Rogers Clark received an important message from Pittsburgh. France had signed a treaty of alliance with the United States. Clark hoped this information would be useful in securing the allegiance of the Canadian inhabitants of the Illinois country. Okay, so So the people that became Louisville were the ones, the settlers who moved to the mainland, who had planted this crop. They drilled the troops in preparation. The families who traveled the regiment planted a crop. They moved to the mainland. While on the island, he received a post. Okay. So then he's going to leave them all behind, I guess. Whatever. So they're basically, these people, the people that George Rogers Clark came, are the ones that became main fucking Louisvillians, including Simon Kenton. So Simon Kenton was a Louisvillian, right? All you got UK fans, I'm a Louisville slugger, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up, you fucking racist, religious, backwards, culture of ignorance loving piece of shit. Both the programs, UK and U of L's multi-million-dollar fucking corrupt programs. Who gives a shit about either one of them? That doesn't help Kentucky. No Kentucky players have ever, very few Kentucky players, let's put it that way, have elevated through the ranks of U of L or UK. I think they had 3 last year of U of L UK. All the national championships, only 3 of them actually came from Kentucky. So, they're creating jobs and they're bringing money and revenue into it. But that's the thing. They're fucking using, black people for slaves. In order to make money for themselves, and it just isn't right. Slavery, I thought, was outlawed a long ass time ago, and it just shouldn't be that way. It just Pequawee. So we see lots of Pequawee. The Battle of Pequawee. So the Battle of Pequawee and the Battle of Pequot is turned out to be the same things. We probably can learn a little bit about George Rogers Clark actually from Simon Kenton. Let's do Simon Kenton and then George Rogers Clark. We'll find some fun things to come. Yeah, look at that. Simon Kenton served as a scout on the famous 1778 George Rogers Clark campaign through the Illinois country. Is that what it was? His Illinois campaign against Kaskaskia and Cahokia, where he was killing a lot of Shawnee and French and Spanish settlement. Tecumseh and the Shawnee Prophet. Rediscovering Simon Kenton. We'll just do those and see if we can come up with anything. So here we got the Battle of Pequawee. The Battle of Pequawee is the largest battle of the American Revolution to occur west of the Allegheny Mountains. Wow, the biggest fucking battle. The largest fucking battle. Even bigger than the Battle of Blue Licks, probably, I would say. During the summer of 1780, George Rogers Clark led about 1,050 men, primarily militiamen from Kentucky. So George Rogers Clark is taking all these Kentuckians and killing all these Native Americans. It's in Kentuckians' blood to kill fucking natives. Against Shawnee native settlements at Old Chillicothe. And then Pequawee, the Shawnee destroyed Old Chillicothe as Clark's men approached on August 6th. August 8th, the militiamen arrived at Pequawee, a Shawnee village that was located just west of present-day Springfield, Ohio, on the Mad River. Most of the natives resided in log cabins. Clark's men succeeded in driving the Shawnee from Pequawee, proceeded to destroy the town. So, good fucking deal, huh? Murdered, fucking, wiped out Old Chillicothe, wiped it out, right? And what do we have today? Clark County is sitting right on top of a Shawnee fucking settlement of a Skippakithiki today. I mean, that's all fucking George Rogers Clark did, was went around fucking murdering Shawnee people. And we're going to fucking carry on his legacy. Hey, we're going to go to Clark County. What's that named after? Oh, this fucking psycho that murdered a lot of Native Americans. Oh, I bet they got a lot of good people there, probably. No, probably not, since it's named after a genocidal fucking maniac like Columbus, Ohio. You think there's any... How many people you think is actually good in Columbus, Ohio? That fucking shit town? Give me a fucking break. I don't know. I mean, the psyche. I mean, seriously, what goes into the psyche of fucking living in a town that's named after an oppressor? Living in Louisville, all these fucking U of L. I'm graduated from U of L, so forgive me, alma mater. But you have all the people that put up the L sign. Yeah, you Louisville, looks like losers. Fucking L, loser, and they have double L's with 2 L's, right? Loser. It's like a gun, right? The 2 L's. But fucking Louisville, yeah, we're here in Louisville. Louis the 16th, the fucking guy we chopped the head off. We carrying his legacy on because we never fucking grow. This is Kentucky. We stay backwards. And we want monarchies. We love our King Louis the 16th. King Louis the 16th. Let's name a city in Kentucky. And actually, It actually tickles me in a way because Louisville, that's named after King Louis, the French monarch. But I mean, what fucking French culture does anybody around here really know? A bunch of backward Southern redneck hicks. You know any fucking French culture? Get the fuck out of here, man. So I'm glad they fuck up Louisville. They say Louisville. We live in Louisville. 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 That's how you say it, right? If you want to say it right, you say it as stupid as possible. Lava. 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 So, that's the Battle of Picowe. Right. Picowe was the name of the 5 divisions of the Shawnee. Ah, so Picowe, Pequot, that's where Pequot was. Fucking dicks. Shawnee village of Pecowe is located. Wow, look at that. They got the exact fucking coordinates. Near Springfield, Ohio, home to the Pecowe and Kiss-Poco divisions of the Shawnee tribe until the Battle of Pequot. August 8th, 1780 by George Rogers fucking Clark. The Pequot Sept of Ohio Shawnee tribe placed a traditional cedar pole in commemoration located on the southern edge of the George Rogers Clark Historical Park in the lowlands of in front of the park's Hertzler House. So what? Traditionally, Shawnee ritual leaders came from the ritual leaders, the religious people. Is that what we're saying? Hey, I'm the Earl of Dunmore. Look at his pink socks. Look at the buckle. You got a nice little buckle and little shoes. I got pretty shoes and pretty socks. Look at my pretty legs. I'm Earl of Dunmore. And Daniel Boone was going to pledge allegiance to this man forever. Even almost got fucking court-martialed for defending the fucking British when he got kidnapped. I'm not going to read this whole book. Especially not like that. Let's go to images. We even look up Clark County, the Wikipedia fucking page. So I can just say, look. It's named after George Rogers Clark. Just like I told you. I did not lie. So let's rediscover Simon Kenton. My Grip Shiver ancestors all pretty much came out of Kenton County. Kenton County, Kentucky is like just a big fucking ordeal of things. So this weekend marks the 34th year of the town of Washington. Once the county seat of Mason will honor pioneer and frontiersman Simon Kenton. For many growing up in the area, the tale of Kenton's founding of the area is probably a familiar conversation. He is recognized as the father of Mason County. What? So there's actually even a Kenton County, right? There's a Kenton County. I remember actually playing Daniel Boone in Kenton County with my cousin in Crittenden in Grant County, which is bordering Kenton. So Simon Kenton is ranked the top frontiersman, peers Daniel Boone, George Rogers Clark, related settlement, one of the largest landowners, fledgling American colonies, one time being the owner of 500,000 acres. God damn, Simon Kenton had 500,000 fucking acres. This isn't just some fucking explorer. This is a goddamn land speculator. Daniel Boone, they're all land speculators. He's one of the largest landowners in Kentucky at the time. Good for him. Fucking Simon Kenton got more land than Daniel Boone did. Daniel Boone got fucking shamed and kicked out. Even Clark didn't get none of his land. Boone and Clark gained fame and their lives were well documented. Simon Kenton's role in the settlement of Kentucky is sometimes overshadowed during his own lifetime, and it wasn't until later in his life and after his death in 1836 that several potential biographers began the task of collecting information on him without much success of putting it into a finished biography. So that's he had 500,000 fucking acres, but nobody thought him significant or important enough to fucking follow. 500,000 acres. Half a fucking million acres. God damn. And they said where? In fucking St. Louis, Louisiana? Stretching to St. Louis. So he is the Louisiana Purchase. Fucking Simon. Yeah, I'm bored with this. So Simon Kenton, he says he's a famous United States frontiersman, soldier at West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio. He's a friend of Daniel Boone, Simon Girty, Spencer Records, Thomas S. Hendy, Dr. Hendy, and Isaac Shelby. And we all know Isaac Shelby is the first governor of Kentucky. He served the United States in the Revolution, the Northwest Indian War, and War of 1812, surviving the gauntlet and ritual torture. 1778, he was adopted into the Shawnee people. Married twice and had a total of 10 kids. So Simon Kenton is a fucking reproducing motherfucker. There's a lot of Kentons everywhere, right? Hey, there's Mark Kenton. Hey, John Kenton. Hey, there's Paul Kenton, Sally Kenton. There's Alice Kenton. So Shawnee people, He was adopted by the Shawnee people. Daniel Boone was adopted by the Shawnee people. They had to run the gauntlet. Daniel Boone had to ride the gauntlet. Simon Gerty had to run the gauntlet. You had those women who were kidnapped. Virginia Wiley. What was her name? Mary Ingalls and Jenny Wiley. So you had Mary Ingalls and Jenny Wiley. They were going to run the gauntlet, but then everybody just gave them like a little soft love tap, right? So scared the shit out of her, and then when she was going through, everybody just kind of tapped it, So in a way, it's like, well, she was the girlfriend, right? So I guess she was getting raped the whole time too. That would be the English girl. What was that? I just said her name. Ingalls, Mary Ingalls. So Mary Ingalls was being raped, and she had to run a fake gauntlet, but she was the boyfriend of some fucking powerful chief, so they spared her life, and they spared the life of like one of her friends too, who was like argumentative. I don't know. I've read different stories. So there's Simon Kitten. We're talking about Simon Kitten being adopted into the Shawnee people. Simon Kitten was born at the headwaters of Mill Run in the Bull Run Mountains on April 3rd, 1755. It was now a Fauquier County, Virginia, to Mark Kitten Sr., an immigrant from Ireland, and Mary Miller Kitten, whose family was Scots, Welsh, and ancestry. Okay, so 1774, he's in Dunmar's War again, right? So again, that's where George Rogers Clark is. So it almost seemed like Simon Kitten almost might have been just sucking or riding, dick riding on George Rogers Clark for a while. So he's at Dunmar's War. He served as a scout for the European settlers against the Shawnee Indians in what is now West Virginia and Kentucky. So even though he was adopted by the Shawnee, he was actually fighting against the Shawnee. Very similar to Simon Gerty and very similar to Daniel Boone. Like I said, Daniel Boone was adopted by Blackfish, so he was a Shawnee member. And the following year, Kitten was rescued from the Shawnee in Ohio by Simon Gerty. So he was going to get murdered by the Shawnee, but eventually Simon Gerty fucking pleads for his life. And he survived many days of running the gauntlet and other ritual tortures that usually cause death. So Simon Gerty is just a tough fucking bastard, right? Many days of running the gauntlet. He later taken about 50 miles for more torture at Sandusky. There he was saved by Pierre Drouillard, an interpreter for the British Indian Department, father of explorer George Drouillard. The Shawnee respected Kitten for his endurance. They named him Cudahoga, the condemned man. He was adopted into the tribe by a motherly squaw whose own son had been slain. Kitten served as a scout on the famous 1778 George Rogers Clark expedition to capture Fort Sackville during the American Revolution. Independence did not mean an end to warfare. In 1793, Kitten fought in the Northwest Indian War with Mad Anthony Wayne. So if he was the great conqueror of the Northwest, why are we still fighting the Northwest Indian War, right? And then that precursor to the War of 1812. So they fought in the Northwest Indian War because the Shawnee were still there, right? So fucking George Rogers Clark isn't the great conqueror of the Northwest. He's the great genocider. He's the great, American revolutionary genocider, just like George Washington is. And then they start suppressing their own people, right? Once these revolutionaries get into power, they immediately just fucking turn into, the oppressors that they try to kick out. So it happens every fucking time. So in 1810, Kitten moved to Urbana, Ohio, where he achieved the rank of brigadier general of the state militia. He served in the War of 1812 as both a scout and as leader of a militia group in the Battle of Thames. Yeah, so that's just more about Simon Kitten. Isaac Shelby, here's the great first governor of Kentucky. Here's the face of Kentucky, the first face. Yes, I am Isaac Shelby, and I am a smart man. He's got a nice little, what do they call that thing around the neck and that little what, a bumpkin or a bonnet or a bumpkin bonnet? He's wearing his bumpkin bonnet. What do they call that? It's all frilly. Look at him. It's supposed to act like he's got like a puff. It's like a peacock, right? He's got a puffed up chest. Look at me. I am big. You're not a big man with, you're secure in your masculinity by wearing, really effeminate clothing. But nobody is fooled. Just like with shoulder pads. Nobody's fooled with shoulder pads. It looks silly when you have way too big of shoulder pads. And you should be made to look like yourself, so just be proud of who you are, Isaac, man. Quit trying to cover it up. Clark County, named for the Revolutionary War hero, right? So yeah, good job, fucking Wikipedia. He ain't no fucking hero. He's a bastard. So let's look at the history of Clark County. So Clark County, we can tell, is right in the middle of Kentucky, right next to Lexington. So central Kentucky, around the the Bluegrass region or the Knobs. So either right by the Knobs or right in the Bluegrass region, central Kentucky. We'll just go central Kentucky. Many pioneers traveled through nearby Fort Boonesborough in Madison County, Kentucky. So before establishing permanent settlements in Clark County, at least 19 pioneer stations are believed to have been established in the area during the American Revolution. So about 19 of them, right? They had 19 stations in fucking Clark County. Esquipakithiki was last seen in 1774. So what happened to Esquipakithiki? Well, fucking Clark County is what happened to it. Let's see if they even mention 1774 or 1754. So it's already gone. They don't even mention it when they start the fucking history of Clark County. They forgot to mention there was fucking a Shawnee village right there in the middle of it. So we see that Clark County is named for the Revolutionary War hero, right? That's what Wikipedia is saying. Now we're going to look for Esquipakithiki. Esquipakithiki is the Indian Oldfields. We'll do some images of it. Okay. So you got Clark County here. So Clark County, we see lots of where Clark County is pointed to. I don't know why we looked at images for Clark County. Because this doesn't matter. So let's get some pictures up of Indians, Kentucky. Let's see what pulls up. So when we type in Indians and Kentucky, we get this Chickasaw, Shawnee, Yuchi, Cherokee map, which is famous. Here's a picture of a Native American wearing some antlers, right? They're wearing some, I guess, deer antlers. It makes them look more tough. I don't know what I'm looking at. So here you have Ridgetop Shawnee tribe of Indians, and they're all, let's see, this is southern Kentucky here. You got Letcher County, Lee, Harlan, Leslie County, Clay County, Knox, Bell, Whitley, Owsley, Lee, Wolfe County. I was actually just in Wolfe County, Powell County, Breathitt County, not Floyd, Perry, Pike. They're saying this is all the Shawnee tribe. So Shawnees all were living around here, for the Ridgetop Shawnee tribe. Let's go to the page where this interesting picture is. Yeah, so the Ridgetop. All counties shown above are approved. So if you're Shawnee from these counties, then you can be part of the Ridgetop Shawnee. So that's great. My God, look at all the... Yeah, there's no Native Americans in fucking Kentucky, but all these counties, there's a shit ton of fucking Native Americans. Man, Clotter's got to rewrite his book. He's already fucked up, you know. He went ahead and said in a white apologist perspective. Here's a Esquipakithiki, also called Indian Oldfields. It's the trading post in Clark County. Its name is Shawnee for place of the Blue Licks. The Battle of Blue Licks happened right here. So Clark County, right? They call it. We all call it Clark County today. But they talked about how, you know, essentially this old town used to, let's see, the English declared that LaSalle never touched the Ohio River, only the Wabash in Indiana, and thought it was the Ohio draining into the Mississippi. But the Shawnees felt that they were under the jurisdiction of the French. They welcomed both French and English traders, trading furs for guns, gunpowder, and trinkets. So Esquipakithiki was a trading town for the British, trading town for the French. Just a nice little trading town, right? Two early traders, Mr. Hart and Peter Cartier, came in 1774. The Indians had burned out the trees in the open plain at Esquipakithiki so grass could grow to attract game. They grew corn, tobacco, potatoes, beans, pumpkins, and sunflowers. I'm not going to go on anymore, but this is just an old Shawnee town. This used to be like a big-ass metropolis. I heard that, you know, it was like the metropolis is a metropolis. This is 1754. Kentucky doesn't get settled until 1774, so 20 years later by Daniel Boone. You know, the French were all running around there, so I don't know if they could say that they settled or occupied it, but they had controlled that territory, and there's a lot more French culture here that was going on, and they were more peaceful because they set up trading towns instead of wiping them out. And I think Schippakettiki wound up getting wiped out because the last time we hear them is in 54, and then you have the French and Indian War. So I think they get wiped out with the, you know, the British are killing the fucking French and are killing the fucking British, and in the middle the Native Americans are getting slaughtered left and right. So when you have a George Rogers Clark that just says, well, I'm just going to fuck up the Indians, that's all I'm going to fucking do, right? Then people are like, oh, hell yeah, let's go do that. Indian Oldfield's an unincorporated community located in Clark County, Kentucky. The community takes its name from the Indian Oldfield present. When white settlers arrived, they discovered the Native American settlement of Schippakettiki, believed to be the last Indian village in Kentucky, also named Indian Old Cornfield. Established by Peter Chartier, which actually I don't believe that. They don't know when it was actually established, but they are actually trying to get some of the, you know, original fucking sort of information about these things. So let's see, Eden of the West, right? Look at this. Schippakettiki, Eden of the West. There was another Schippakettiki thing that I was thinking about. Oh yeah, I guess in topics. There's a bunch of things in topics. We might find something, but I think it'll actually slow down. Yeah, it's gonna slow down. I'm not gonna go to that. So, but there's what happens is that there's some Indians, Ottawa Indians, and then there's for Schippakettiki. John Finley was a Schippakettiki from 1752 to 1754, and then he comes back to Kentucky with Daniel Boone about like 15, 20 years later. But he was in the town, and so he actually got to see what happened, and then him and his men got kidnapped or got killed and captured, and then he had gotten away. And so one of the guys who actually wrote a note about this, it was the first time he wrote the word Kentucky. And so, you know, this is 1754. This is the origins of Kentucky. This is the very beginning. Someone once said a Schippakettiki sounds very similar to Kentucky. So people could have been saying, where are you going to go? Well, I'm going to go to the river, you know, that goes to a Schippakettiki, the river, the Schippakettiki River, going to a Schippakettiki. I'm going to Kentucky River. So I don't know where... I don't know where Kentucky's name comes from. I don't know where the Shawnee Native Americans went to, like, specifically. There's no hard evidence, but essentially, right, the white people fucking just genocide and they killed them all. And you know, it wasn't a thing to fucking kill Native Americans for white people. And they got to know them as savages, right? They would just kill their fucking babies and all this other shit, and they just didn't give a shit. So Schippakettiki, they say this is Big Eden of the West. Let's see, Filson. He mentioned in his book the place is known to all Indians by that term, dark and bloody ground. I don't know. Says Schippakettiki is pronounced Schippakettiki. Schippakettiki. Wow, so you don't even say E. Why is there an E in it? Why do we say... Let's see, Schippakettiki. So Schippakettiki, Kentucky. Wow, when you look at the pronunciation though, that last part does look like Kentucky. Kentucky. Kentucky fucking, wow, a Schippakettiki sounds like, so the original goddamn Schippakettiki, Shawnee fucking town, is, you know, is going to be wiped out, and then they're going to name the fucking town for the fucking guy who wiped out and killed so many fucking Shawnee people. So the French, let's see, French had established a trading post at a Schippa. Well, I've been saying it wrong, right? According to this, pronounced, whoever wrote this, Ed Henson. So, Schippakettiki. So, at a Schippakettiki. Schippakettiki. Kihiki. So, Schippakettiki. God, I gotta fucking relearn that. Schippakettiki. Alright, so Schippakettiki. Schippakettiki The Shawnee village scattered. They welcomed from both the French and the English. 1750, Christopher Gist passed through the village area on his way exploring Kentucky. In my swift research, it seems likely that John Swift could have been linked to the trade around the Shawnees. 1754, if that was the case, then Swift would have known about Skippa Kihiki. Another famous pioneer trader the Shawnee welcomed was John Finley. In the earlier fall 1752, Finley was met by the Shawnee on the Ohio River near the Big Bone Lick. They invited him to come trade at their village by canoe. They traveled from the Ohio up the Kentucky River to Upper Howard's Creek, then a small path overland to the village. Here, Finley built a cabin and a store. He surrounded the store with an entrenchment of palisades for additional protection. So John Finley fucking established himself hardcore, right? More than anybody could. He built a cabin and a store. From the research I have come to believe that Finley most likely built his cabin and store away from the main trading center on the banks of the Upper Howard's Creek, just below the Scarp. During the winter of 1753, a large party of Iroquois and a few Frenchmen. This is going to be, what's the guy's name? Fucking Peter Peters or Jeffrey Jeffries or something that repeats over. Philip Phillips. Old fucking Philip Phillips, I think, has something to do with the wiping out of a Skippy. Possibly Philip Phillips. So this is Philip Phillips is with the Iroquois and a few Frenchmen, right? So down the Warriors Path in the Iroquois, like Ottawa and some of those other Chippewa, Ottawa, and commonly known as the War Party. 3 of Finley's friends were at the village at the time of the attack, were killed. Finley's property was plundered and destroyed. All of his valuable pelts and furs were taken. Then he ran back to Virginia. This battle fought at Skippy in 1753 marks the first battle on Kentucky soil between Indians and whites and said to be the first battle of the French and Indian War. Holy shit. Okay. The first battle of the French and Indian War? I thought it had something to do with goddamn fucking George Washington and the ambush. So the first fucking battle of Skippy that's going to be at 1753, they're going to get wiped out and they're going to get fucking just creamed. And that's when we last see this Shawnee town, this Shawnee village in Kentucky. What happened to it? It was the goddamn French and fucking Indian War is what happened to it. The first fucking battle. You know what I mean? Like, the whole war and the first battle is here, and we didn't even know about the last battle of the American Revolution is the Battle of Blue Licks, right? Unless you want to count the campaign right to that, which is a fucking battle, right? It's just basically a genocidal fucking, murder fest where he killed all 5 fucking towns with Simon Kenton, including Old Chillicothe and Pequot. So, George Rogers Clark's killing all these fucking people just to end it all off, right? Just to have a nice little fucking cherry on top of the American fucking colonist victory over the British. Not only did they destroy the fucking British, but, they killed lots of fucking innocent Native Americans. Well, I don't know if you want to say innocent, but those particular, villages, when you're killing villages, that you're killing innocent fucking people. You're not killing only the ones who killed. You're killing everybody, and you don't give a shit. So, that's fucking fascinating. So, Skippy is wiped out for the first fucking, the first battle of the French and Indian War, which is the British versus the French, and the Indians get stuck into it. And you're right. This title just basically says how fucking history is. It's written by the victors. The French and Indian War. What happened to the British? The British were killing French and Indians, right? But they pretend like they weren't even a part of it. Just like the Spanish-American War. What happened to Cuba? Why? How is it the Spanish-American War? Where did Cuba go? So, another state treasure is a peculiar landmark associated with the Skippy Pilot Knob, named by Daniel Boone to help pilot land grants during the early years of Kentucky settlement. Pilot Knob is a sandstone outcrop that towers nearly 1,500 feet above the surrounding country, overlooking the area of the old Shawnee village as well as the Warrior's Path. This landmark was called the Pigeon Roost by the Shawnee and viewed as a pleasant backdrop to the flat meadows against the foothills of Appalachia. Sometimes get lost in thought of what magic Boone must have felt standing on the same, overlooking, taking the same view. Alright, so it goes on and on. It doesn't say anything about what it is I'm actually looking for. Clark County, let's see, this battle, they're going to talk about the Indian Old Fields, basically a Skippy or Skippa Kihiki, Kihiki. So Skippa Kihiki. I like it Skippa Kihiki better. So, but I can see how it could turn into Kentucky. I think that's the important things, right? I've practiced the Skipakithiki way too long, and they should have fucking spelled it better. Kit Hickey, Kit Hickey, Kihiki, Kihiki, Skipakihiki. No, fuck you, Skipakihiki. For years, it's been a great fox hunting country. Antebellum days, the Mexican War. What? Samuel Clellan's, the mother of Samuel Clellan's, was actually born in Kentucky. I think the fucking his granddad or president was born in fucking Kentucky. So there were in truth in 1750 but 3 places in Kentucky where the red men dwelt. Well, only 3 fucking places. What do you know? These were the extreme west of Kentucky, where the Chickasaws lived in savage independence on the cliffs of the Mississippi, a small section of ground opposite the mouth of the Scioto River, occupied by a Shawnee town, and an isolated town in central Kentucky. So the small section of ground opposite the mouth of the Scioto River, occupied by a Shawnee town, that's Shinoa. And then they're talking about the Chickasaws in the cliffs of the Mississippi out western fucking Kentucky. That's the Chickasaw lands, right? The Chickasaw fucking, not the Jackson Purchase, it's the Chickasaw lands. And let's see, you had 1745. They keep on giving him credit. I'll go ahead and give him credit, you know, that he was there at that time. But I'm not going to sit there and say he actually is the one. I bet they've been trading there a long-ass time, and maybe he just, you know, connected to the French. So Peter Chartier, a French trader, met and traded with the Shawnee Indians at the Falls of the Ohio. Setting out from the falls in company with a predatory band of Indians, his company soon encountered 2 traders whom they despoiled their goods, amounted to about 1,600 pounds in value. Continuing their journey southward, they settled in a small stream that was afterwards named Lawbegrud Creek. Lawbegrud Creek was so named by Boone. Here they laid out a town to which they gave the name of Skipakithiki. The town has long since disappeared. The present name, Indian Oldfields, preserves the memory of the ancient post. The site of the old town is some 15 miles from the present town of Winchester. Dwelling in the heart of the bluegrass region and at a distance from both kinsman and foe, the exiled Shawnees prospered and grew apace. But after 2 or 3 years, the warriors of the 6 nations learned of the trespassers on their hunting grounds. From that hour, the life of the Shawnee was one of danger and fear. The Iroquois harassed them incessantly. The northern Shawnees, meanwhile, sent reiterated requests for their wandering brethren to return to the tribe, but they were reluctant to leave Kentucky. Finally, worn out by the Iroquois attacks, the exiles began their journey out of the land, numbering 450. They traveled down to the Lawbegrud, the Red, the Kentucky, and the Ohio to the Tennessee, ascending the Tennessee to Bear Creek. They met and wantonly attacked the Chickasaws. That warlike tribe speedily punished and expelled the intruders. All right, I'm just kind of reading here. I don't know if I'm retaining any of it. Let's see. Is that Skipakithiki, the venerable Shawnee chieftain Blackhoof was born. So Blackhoof was born in Skipakithiki. And we'll look up Blackhoof and then we'll call it a day. Because Blackhoof, I heard, nobody knows where Tecumseh was from. So actually I heard that Tecumseh was from Kentucky. And if that's true, if Tecumseh was actually from Kentucky, that makes Kentucky so much more important. Because Tecumseh is like the fucking, he's the Godzilla. He's the fucking King Kong of the Shawnee people. Okay, he wasn't fighting for Native Americans. He was a Shawnee, and the Shawnee been fighting against the white people the whole fucking time. And they were such vicious warriors. They were able to turn people, right? And they were vicious and they were fucking compassionate. So they were, you know, they're bloody and they did what they needed to do. But at the same time, there's so many, you know, examples of them being real nice and decent to people. Which is, I'm amazed by the Shawnee, and the fucking Shawnee was all over Kentucky, right? We just saw the picture of the ridgetop Shawnee in eastern Kentucky, where they had just a big old patch of southeastern fucking Kentucky was all Shawnee people. So that's where they said the Chickasaw and the Yuchi was in southeastern. So Chickasaw, Yuchi, Shawnee is down there in the, you know, southeastern, Shawnee all over. Then you got the fucking Chickasaw on the left, and then probably Cherokee all over too. And then the Iroquois, right? The Cherokee and the Iroquois were battling the fucking Shawnee. So that means both of those tribes had to have been in Kentucky too. So Blackhoof was the head civil chief of the Shawnee Indians in the Ohio country of what became the United States. A member of Mekochi division of the Shawnees, Blackhoof became known as a fierce warrior during the earlier wars between the Shawnee and Anglo-American colonists. Blackhoof claimed to have been present at the Battle of the Monongahela in 1755 when General Edward Braddock was defeated during the French and Indian War, although there's no contemporary evidence that Shawnees took place in that battle. He says that he was there. Why would you not believe him? the Battle of the Monongahela in 1755. So why, I believe him, why wouldn't he be there? So little documentary evidence of Blackhoof's life appears in historical record. As a child, he may have been a member of a wandering band of 400 Shawnees led by Peter Chartier between 1745 and 1748, who founded the community in Kentucky called Esquipakithiki and later moved to Sylacauga, Alabama, eventually settling in Old Shawneetown. Illinois. He probably took part in the Battle of Point Pleasant during Lord Dunmore's war against the Virginia militia, 1774. During the American Revolution, he taken part of the siege of Boonesboro. Was led by Chief Blackfish, who kidnapped Daniel Boone, as well as subsequent defense of the Shawnee village of Chillicothe in 1779. In the Northwest Indian War, Blackhoof was defeated by Mad Anthony Wayne, and following the collapse of the Indian Confederation, surrendered 1795. So he signs the Treaty of Greenville, and that's why I fucking hate this guy. So some people like, I don't know, Zachary Taylor, he's like basically a genocidal fucking punk ass piece of shit his whole life, and then he stands up and defends the Union even against the slave owners, okay? And so he basically stands up for the, you know, at the end of his life, he redeems himself. My grandfather, too, Camillus Scripture, gives the land out in even parcels to his entire family, so that way everybody has an equal, you know, chance or stake out in this fucking world. And of course, why shouldn't they? So, like Little Turtle, the Miami's Blackhoof decided that the American Indians need to adapt culturally to the ways of the whites, especially to prevent decimation through warfare. During his later years, Blackhoof became an ally of the United States, responsible for keeping the majority of the Shawnee Nation from joining Tecumseh's war. So yeah, fuck this piece of shit bastard. If he was this guy, if he was, you know, born, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that this asshole was even fucking born in Esquipakithiki. He's not a Native American that I'm fucking happy about. You know, he's fighting against fucking Tecumseh. He's you know, trying to get Shawnees not to go to a Tecumseh's war, become part of the War of 1812. So again, we see the Native Americans, right? You have Johnny Logan's war turn into Dunmore's war, turn into the American Revolution. Now you see Tecumseh's war turn into the War of 1812. So the Native Americans, even the French and Indian War, the Battle of Esquipakithiki, right? You had the French fucking traders and the English that was fighting at Esquipakithiki, and then that transcended into the French and Indian War. So you have all these fucking, you know, Indian skirmishes and battles that eventually turn into a full-fledged war. Why are they fighting these battles? To steal the fucking Indian land. North America was a big-ass fucking chunk of land. I mean, think about being in England, that little tiny island. You come over here, and you think that you own the entire fucking continent. The people are battling and thinking that they deserve, and then you had two great empires, right? That was basically next door to each other. So kind of, you know, an incidence of historical, which is actually a good thing. It's a good thing that they put them next to each other so they could battle each other out and kill each other, and then the rest of the world can say, hey, wait, these two empires, we don't want to be subjugated to them, so fuck them. We're going to be our own people. And so, you know, they spread their culture everywhere, but what? But nothing. We're gonna have to finish this up here shortly, right? So this asshole, which I wish I could fucking brag about him, but he fucking conceded and then, you know, fucking blended in, and then we don't see him anymore. The Battle of the Monongahela, which is what they said that he was in, was at the Braddock expedition, which this doesn't tell me much. Chief Blackfish, native tongue, Kato Wamogo. Well, let's go back to Simon Girty and let's practice his name. So Simon Girty's name actually isn't even Simon, right? Girty. He's a AKA Catapakaman. So let's check out Catapakaman. Because, I mean, you've only been listening to me for an hour. Clearly, I'm going to be going somewhere with all this. But no, I'm not going anywhere with any of this. So that's the end of it. Fuck George Rogers Clark, the piece of shit. The great fucking genocider of the Northwest. He killed fucking Native Americans left and right. Fucking Iroquois, you know, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Kaskaskia, Cahokians, Shawnee people, Cherokee, Yuchi, Delaware, the Creek, Muskego, you know, Tunica and Chippewa and Shoshone, and just go on and on. If you can name a Native American tribe, you probably fucking killed one of them too. So. Fuck George Rogers Clark. Let's see, I want to make sure I cover all my major bases. Fuck George Washington. Fuck George Rogers Clark. Let's see. Fuck genociders. Fuck Hitler. I don't know. I mean, that seems to be, they're all in the same breath. Fuck Christopher. Let's see, we'll start out with Adolf Hitler first, okay? And then we'll just end off with the white Americans. All right, so fuck Adolf Hitler. Fuck Christopher Columbus. Fuck Andrew Jackson. Fuck George Rogers Clark. Fuck George Washington. Fuck Zachary Taylor. Fuck President Polk in the Mexican War. Fuck all the McKinley in the Spanish American War and the expansion of the empire. Um, there's a lot of bloody fucking butchers. It's all our fucking money. So fuck all those guys. Fuck George. Mad Anthony Wayne. Fuck. Let's see, William Tyler. Fuck. How many other fucking Indian genociders? Fuck all Indian genociders. Fuck every genocider that's ever been known to all humankind. Fuck genocide. Fuck murder. Why? Genocide is just fucking protracted murder. What? How the fuck? Genocide? Israel? Come on now.